Today on BRStv we have our 10th episode of the How to Start a Saltwater Aquarium series. In today's episode we're going to switch out our calcium and alkalinity solution. Previously we were using Calcwater in our auto top-off system. Today we're going to switch over to a two-part dosing system.
We're switching over because we added a healthy amount of corals to this tank, including some higher consumption species like SBS corals as well as some clams. Calcwater just wasn't keeping up any longer. There are a few things we can try and do to add more saturated Calcwater solution to the system. We find two-part to be a bit more accurate and easier to use and adjust as we add more corals to the tank and the ones that we currently have grow and the consumption increases.
I think two-part really is easier to adjust and keep accurate levels over time, especially when coupled with a couple of dosing pumps to automate the system. But regardless of all that, I think it'd be nice to show everybody how a two-part system works.
Two-part has been around for a long time. Basically, it's just two jugs, one filled with calcium solution and another to maintain alkalinity. We add a small amount each day to replace the calcium and alkalinity from the last day. Most people would add it when they're feeding the aquarium.
Or like I mentioned, you can use a couple of dosing pumps to automate this system. Basically, they just turn on and dose the exact same amount every day, which keeps the system really stable. This is also very easy. The only thing you really need to do at that point is replace the jugs every month or so when they empty. This is not only convenient on a daily basis, but on a vacation it's almost indispensable. I don't know about you, but I can't really get my house sitter to understand anything other than how to put food in the tank. Let's go mix some of this up.
To do this, all we need is going to be our purified water, like RODI water, a mixing jug, our chemical, and the measuring cup. To mix the calcium chloride, we went ahead and filled up the jug halfway full of RODI water, and then we pre-measured our 2.5 cups of BRS calcium chloride. So just go ahead and pour that in the mixing jug. And then you can fill up the rest with RODI water. And then just cap it off. You give it a shake. It should take about 60 seconds, and this should be completely dissolved.
The alkalinity portion is pretty much the same as what Reed just did there. However, instead of 2.5 cups, we're going to use 2 cups of soda ash. And while you can mix it directly in the jug, this one doesn't dissolve quite as easy, so I find it's a little bit easier to mix it in an open top container like this, where I can actually stir it while I'm pouring it in. This will make it dissolve a lot easier. And once I have it fully dissolved, I can go ahead and pour it into my mixing jug using the funnel.
Next, we're going to go ahead and mix up our magnesium solution. I know this system is commonly referred to as two-part, and there is a third part with magnesium. This is because magnesium is going to be used less frequent than the other two.
The magnesium portion requires 3 cups of magnesium sulfate and 5 cups of magnesium chloride to make a gallon of solution. So that's 8 total cups of salt that's going to be dissolved in that gallon of water. It's a lot of salt, so it might be a little harder to dissolve. If you're having any troubles with it, float it in a hot sink of water or just let it rest for a couple of days and it should dissolve completely.
Mixing all this stuff was pretty easy, but if you're more of a pre-mix type of person, there are a lot of pre-mix solutions out there available. One of the more popular ones is going to be the Bionic from ESV. Once again, you're going to have your one for your calcium solution and another for the alkalinity.
Well, you certainly pay a premium for having it pre-mixed. The Bionic is a great option as well. Now that we have everything mixed up, let's move over to the tank.
The first step in setting up any calcium and alkalinity scheme is to get your levels where you want them. Then you can start your daily dosage amount to maintain those levels. You can figure this out by using our Reef calculator on the website.
It's pretty easy. Just enter your system water volume, which is your tank, plus your sump minus rock and sand. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, just guess as close as you can. Then enter your current calcium level, what you are raising the calcium levels with. In this case, it's recipe 1 calcium solution, and then hit calculate. Some instructions will pop up to the left, and the amount you need to dose down below. Then repeat these steps with the alkalinity and magnesium calculator, and once we get the levels up to where we want them to be begin with, we can begin dosing our daily 2-part to maintain these new levels.
So now we need to figure out how much to dose each day. We have some starting points in the instructions on our website. Since this is a fairly well-stocked tank, we're going to start off with 1 milliliter per gallon. We estimate the total water volume to be around 50 gallons, so we're going to start off at 50 milliliters per day.
So we should note that we're going to dose 50 milliliters of both solutions, calcium and alkalinity, and this is what our daily dosing regimen is going to look like. I'm going to come back to the tank in a few days and see if the levels have gone up. If they have, I'm going to drop my daily dosing down a little bit, say 40 milliliters a day. If they've gone down, I will add a little bit more, maybe 55 or 60 milliliters a day. And I'll do testing every few days until I hone in on exactly how much the tank is consuming every day. Typically, this only takes me about 4 or 5 tests and maybe 2 weeks to hone in on the exact number. Once I know what it is, it really doesn't change much, and the only real work I'm going to have to do at that point is change out my jugs. At this level, it's going to last a pretty significant amount of time. And the only reason I should ever really have to change the amount that I dose every day is because I added a lot of new corals or I saw significant growth out of the corals I already have.
I think this is where the dosers come in really handy. Not only are they going to be consistent, they're going to add the same amount every day, so I don't have to be worried about forgetting to dose or what to do if I go out of town for a few days. The consistency is really nice.
Yeah, and since we're going to hook these up to a digital timer of some sort, we've basically reduced something that is really intimidating and complex to many people, such as maintaining proper calcium and alkalinity levels, down to something as simple as how long is my timer on? If my levels start to rise, shave a few minutes off my timer. If they're going down, add a few minutes to the timer. It's so easy, basically anybody could do it.
You can use the standard mixing jug to hook the doser up to. In this case, we're going to use the storage container by Bubble Magus. It's kind of neat. It's got a straw that draws from the bottom of the container. But really, we're just going to use it in this case, mainly because it looks cool.
Bubble Magus makes another nice dosing accessory, which is their tube holder. This will attach right on the side of your sump and has some holes to attach your dosing tubes to. If you've ever had your tube kind of get loose and end up out of the sump and spill all over your floor, you'll know exactly how nice something like this can be.
So like I said earlier, we're going to start off with 50 milliliters a day of calcium and alkalinity. Since our pump is 1.1 milliliters per minute, we need to run the pump for 45 minutes a day. This could be achieved using a simple timer like this here, but since we have a Reef keeper hooked up on the system, we're going to use one of the available controllable outlets.
So you're probably wondering what happened to that magnesium and why we're not setting up a doser for that as well. Well, magnesium is a bit different and not consumed as quickly by the biological function in the tank, so it doesn't require frequent dosing as much as the other two. In fact, oddly enough, water changes are probably the biggest cause of lowering your magnesium levels.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of salt mixes out there are pretty low in magnesium levels. So there's a good chance that when you're doing a water change, you're actually reducing the amount of magnesium in your aquarium. This is where you can check your freshly mixed saltwater bin and adjust the levels as needed using our Reef calculator prior to doing a water change.
Assuming the salt mix that you're using for water changes does have proper magnesium levels, then you should actually only have to use 20 ounces of magnesium solution for every gallon of calcium and alkalinity that you go through. And that 20 ounces can actually be added all at once on a standard tank like this one. But if you wanted to split that dose up or even put it on a doser so it was tiny amounts each day, you certainly could. So that about wraps up this series on starting a new saltwater aquarium. We've gone over a lot of topics and equipment in this series, and we hope we've added some insight to help you decide which of these things are of value to you and your system. One thing I always like to remind people is all of this equipment will certainly make things easier, but nothing beats a solid water change and maintenance schedule. You can have a pretty phenomenal tank with almost no equipment if you're consistent with your water changes and maintenance.
Keep an eye out for new additions to our other series. or to be notified when they come out, subscribe to our newsletter or YouTube channel. Thank you for watching BRStv.